You think after we've been open for a while and people get their drink down, they're going to know when their drink turns out right and turns out wrong. And that's when you start seeing drink complaints. You don't usually see them this early on or when you're this new.
I do anticipate that, but I also anticipate this next month or so as a nice buffer for the baristas to gain the knowledge and skills to be able to make those consistent drinks. So while the customers are, kind of defining their palate, the baristas are defining their skills at the same time, probably at the same pace.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-through openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
How's the day?
It started snowing like 10 minutes ago, so it's great.
Your best day. You love snow. You're like snow all the time. You're like snow every day.
I actually love when it snows now because I don't have to drive anywhere in it, so it's great.
I love it. I just remember the days of opening stores. Like talk about one of the suckiest things to do is when you've got snow on the ground, you do a snow opening, which we always avoid, right? We're always trying for. So obviously, welcome to Coffee Experts Club. Amazing to have you here join us today. If you're opening a grand opening during snow season, I'm sorry, it sucks. We've done a couple, and I just remember Cody Anderson just out there freaking his balls, like trying to direct traffic because the line was so crazy. I mean, I feel like we've done a couple of them. None of them were very fun. And I'm really grateful that snow looks good outside where it belongs and we can just sit inside and do our jobs now.
I remember just operating, like it's so difficult if you're somewhere that, especially somewhere that like gets snow occasionally where it's like here in Tri-Cities, like we're kind of prepared for it sometimes. So like if you get like a foot of snow overnight, you're like, good luck trying to get any workers to the shops because nobody can get to it. So it's like this juggling act of how do we open? How do we get employees here? Get employees there, shuffling back and forth. Oh man, it's always such a headache.
Man, the things you take for granted, the things that don't become a pain point until they are. And you're just like, son of a, what are we going to do? We push it back. I guess we're both pushing back open times. And even closing times, right? Because you can't keep people there too late. Because if it's snowing too hard, they're not gonna be able to get back home either, right? So there's all those dilemmas. And obviously, Coffee Republic, if you're watching, you're probably just like laughing at us and just being like, bro, this is what are you talking? You talking about snow dope? That's life. That's called Montana. You know what I mean? So I think there are some places that are a little more built for it, but I know Tri-Cities, it was one of those like in-betweens where kind of was, but then it wasn't, and I know that always would consistently, it seemed like raise its head every year. We're like, dang it, how you're just kind of hoping that it wasn't going to hit you on the days that you needed it not to, but
those weekends of like, a foot and a half of snow and it's a Saturday and you're like, this is supposed to be our best day. And we can't get anybody to the shop at our busiest shop. And it's just, it's always such a crap tune.
Such a shit show. And then like the down, and it's almost worse when you can get one or two people there, right?
We basically had experience in all of the above. And I remember the year that Ben had to get his little smart car dug out of the snow. We all made it to a stand. And I remember Phoenix and I were the only ones who could make it to Kennedy. And it was one of our busiest stores. And that was exactly what happened. It was enough to open, but not enough to support the traffic. And luckily, generally on those days, customers are pretty understanding. Nobody's really in a hurry when there's a foot of snow on the ground.
Yep.
Oh man, Drew Moody, how you doing in the back there? Back of the shop. How's the day going down there, man? How was you were expecting a big rush of 30 people. So unlike Ben, unlike some of the stuff we've experienced back in the States, what Drew deals with right now in this grand opening for Coffee Experts Elite for Coffee de los Mayas is they have tourists. And it's like a gangle of tourists that are like, hey, we need to show up at like 6:45 and leave by 7. So I just want to be clear, or 5:45, leave by 6. I just want to make sure you can make 30 drinks real quick, right? That's what Drew is up against down in Coffee de los Mayas.
Are they like tour guides type things where it's just like a busload of tourists?
Yeah, it's usually they're setting up for some sort of tour of the day. And I'm blessed enough to know the tour guide gentleman who set up tours. So sometimes it's interesting because they show up late, to their tour and then they want us to hurry. And it's like, it's the same old thing, just a new place,
Did they all show up or was it a bust?
We had about half of them. They all came, but half of them stood across the street and watched.
How the kids do get in. Now, obviously, let's calibrate. Coffee de los Mayas has been open 2 weeks, right? Literally almost to the day, like 20 days almost. So I guess coming up on 3. But like we're talking about kids that didn't have any coffee experience that just got murdered on day 1, day 2 with such high traffic volumes, like over 800 cups day 1. Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about like high volumes. And then obviously it's like we've seen spikes and drops like are pretty standard for our grand opening month, and interesting enough, a lot around payroll down in Belize. As far as people get paid, they come spend a bunch of money. When people are in the deficit, they don't spend as much money. Then they get paid, they come and they spend more money. So I think that you've seen some up and down in the buying trend. But I mean, batching out 15 to 20 drinks like that in a short window of time, Drew, how do the kids do? Like, how are they doing with like memory of like building drinks, on putting drinks out the window, like staying nice while they're putting together that many drinks, right? Because that's the stress, right? And still maintaining a good customer experience. How's that all going?
Yeah, it's good. They're still learning. Like you said, it's only been a few weeks, and training here was a whole different monster because of the lack of access to quantities of product.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So they're doing really well. I think they feel relief when I have encouraged them to like taper orders rather than just take all the orders all at once. You just slowly take orders and chat with the customers, and, say you take 2 or 3 orders and then you kind of wait till the next drinks come out. And so they've been really good at it, and they're just nice. They're nice people anyways. So not to knock our American culture, but the Belizeans are just friendly as heck compared to some of the places that I've lived in the States. So really warm-hearted people. And so they don't have a problem staying nice. And they do get a little flustered, but one of the tricks is just thinking, the ones I tell them is that, you can only do one person at a time, really. So don't think about the 15 people waiting, have a conversation with the person that's in front of you. As far as drink construction, well, I think they're doing okay.
I'm watching like, obviously we're helping Coffee de los Mayas with social media too, on like just helping them, commentating and just helping them with the load. But I haven't seen any complaints on quality, like no complaints on drink quality. Like I think that, and I'd say even the few people that we've had that have raised concerns on things, it was more about like function more than like drink quality. It was more like, hey, I don't know that I got my correct change back. Like things that you're still teaching people how things work, So then it's just kill them with kindness, tell them to come back in and you'll make it up to them. You know what I mean? But I think that for the most part, for as much volume as we've seen on their social media feeds between Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, I feel like that in Google, I feel like they're killing it. They're doing a great job. Ben, do you say no? There's no Yelp in Belize. So
Is there Google reviews? I would assume so, right?
there are Google reviews. Yep. And they're and what's the other one? Traveler TripAdvisor. Yeah, as well.
It's hard to complain about drink quality when you don't know what the drinks are supposed to taste like.
That's right. That's right. When everything's our unique blend, they're just like, what are we getting? Oh, that sounds tasty. And then they get it and they have nothing to refer back to. So they're like, that was as good as you described it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you anticipate that though, Drew? You think after we've been open for a while and people get their drink down every time they order the Maya, and they order that for the next 2 months, then obviously they're going to know when their drink turns out right and turns out wrong. And that's when you start seeing drink complaints. You don't usually see them this early on or when you're this new.
Yeah, I do anticipate that, but I also anticipate this next month or so as a nice buffer for the baristas to gain the knowledge and skills to be able to make those consistent drinks. So while the customers are, kind of defining their palate, the baristas are defining their skills at the same time, probably at the same pace. The kids that, they just like Frappuccinos, man. The people love their blended drinks here, and it's always hot drink season here. So as we know, blendeds on blendeds is like the signature move when it comes to hot days. Well, every day's hot here. So a lot of people just get, we started doing milkshakes because we ran out of smoothie mix. So we improvised and created a whole new drink, milkshakes here, and people love those things.
The Frappuccino blended drink remains supreme king everywhere.
People love them, and they love their mochas. Like the mocha is the best seller on the menu. We have all these signature drinks, all these amazing proprietary ingredient list things, and people get mochas.
That's so funny.
Slowly, subconsciously creating our next generation of customers.
That's it. It's a little bit like drug dealing, but it's not really. Like it's at least they enjoy it. It's not detrimental to them. It just makes them a little bit more wired. Oh man, Drew, you've been pushing hard 7 days a week for weeks on end. How's it feel looking down the mouth of the lion these days?
I think I'm gonna miss it here. Yeah, I'm gonna miss it. I really like it. Working every day is kind of rough, but it's like I'm working right now and I'm just sitting here. So I don't think it's not necessarily the physical exertion. It's more like the mental consistent mental concentration and upkeep that is, anybody who's been in leadership knows that you don't really turn off. You have a hard time turning off. So even if I wasn't here, even when I'm back in the States, it's probably going to be a similar, simmering attention needed to put in place until they're autonomous.
So you are coming back at some point then. You're going to stay there forever.
If I had my way.
I mean, he's there until he's not, right? I mean, he can talk about whatever he wants. But plane's supposed to be coming for him in a set of days, and we'll see if he's on it. Oh man, Drew. I mean, you have run a pretty radical stretch, bro. I mean, let's recap Drew's life for the past several months. You got to live in Montana for a month, which was like amazing. Work with the Coffee Republic crew and the most beautiful time to be in Montana. And then you went and hiked the Grand Canyon. And then you've been living in tropical paradise for the last 2 months. I mean, bro, there's some point that everybody's got to come back and live just the daily grind, right? Like at some point.
I don't even know what normal life is like anymore.
I was like, I don't even know where I'm coming back to. I'm just getting on a plane and I'm flying back stateside.
I don't even have a car when I get home, Montana took my car.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
Oh, Ben, tell the story. Drew hasn't heard it.
My transmission blew up over Thanksgiving because apparently there's a recall on the year of my car for the transmission just deciding randomly to just eat itself. So my car is in Oregon for the next month and a half at a dealership while it gets replaced.
Bro, what are you going to do? Did you get a rental?
No, just hang around the house.
Does Ben leave the house?
That's fair.
But I will say, I mean, it was pretty fortuitous. I mean, obviously he still made it to Thanksgiving, which was pretty amazing.
Yep.
And as they were cracking open the tranny, getting ready to fall and dish him out a $3,000 bill that he was going to have to pay to get it rebuilt, Ben happened to stumble over a random spot. You want to tell that story?
Yeah. It took the guy we were at the mechanic shop for 3.5 hours because the guy was trying to figure it out. So I was just on my phone. I initially was on my phone just looking up how much is this going to cost me? And I stumbled on a Reddit thread. And somebody said, hey, this happened to my car. And it was like, oh yeah, there's a recall on that, by the way. Never sent a letter to me or anything. So I had to go through some weird back end Chevy website and saw this letter that says, you may have customers this year model who come in because their transmission blows up. You need to replace the entire transmission for free.
Bro, good job. Thank you, Reddit.
Right?
That is saving the day.
Right. Yeah. So immediately I was like, I talked to the mechanic. I was like, stop. I got to take my car somewhere else now. I'm going to make them pay for it.
Yes. I love it.
Nice, dude. Nice.
So coming back to the States at some point. Until then, though, Drew, I know some of our nervousness has been the standard barista fallout, right? But not our normal ways. Like I feel like American kids are kind of flaky, right? They're like, do I want to come in today or do I feel super sick? I'm not going to be able to come in today. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's classic American kid 101, but that's not Belizean kid 101, right? These kids need the income. They love working for the hours. They love the job. Like they have been such great performers. Like they've just done so well. But one of our kids got broken off, right? Like riding his motorcycle, literally destroyed himself. Dude probably should have died, right? The pictures that I saw.
Yeah. He actually saw him today and he got stitches all across his chin, stitches down his face, stitches down his leg.
Yeah, it's like craziness.
Different types of kids down here.
And dude's like, hey, no problem. I'm going to be in as soon as I can. I think I can work. I think I can run the register. Like just crazy people, right? And then on top of that, then one of our just most beautiful and amazing young leaders down there twisted her ankle on the way to work, right, Drew? Sprained her ankle?
Yeah, she fell down. She was just walking and rolled her ankle. She's so small. She's like 4'11". She wears these like thick soled shoes and she rolled her ankle and fell down a little hill and actually sprained it. So she's out for a week.
Then Drew messaged me this morning. What did you say? One of the kids down with the flu?
Yeah, one of the kids has the flu. I have 8 people, down 3 within the first 2 weeks of opening.
But I will say, we had the human being gals on the last 2 coffee experts from down in HB Reno. And like, I'm always impressed with how long they retain people. They were going to have to let one go. They had a no call, no show. So obviously like that person isn't going to work there any longer, but we track on their scorecard every week. Every week we do their L10 with them. Their level 10 meeting from EOS's way of running a business, which is amazing. It's been worked so good for human being Reno. But we track how many employees they have and turnover. And I feel like they hold on to employees forever. People seem to really like working down there too. But you do have that turnover. I remember at Tri-Cities, I felt like we were turning over people all the time. I felt like Jordan and Mason and the crew was just interviewing people all the time, Ben, until he was able to wriggle his way out of calling interviews and pass that off to somebody else. Like felt like was interviewing people all the time.
Yeah, it's weird how that is, but I think you kind of said it too. There's a different culture of turnover. Like up here, kids, like we had turnover just because they're like, nah, I don't like working anymore. I don't really need the job anyways. I'm just doing this for fun and it's not fun anymore. So I quit. Down there, it's more like I got bitten by a shark. So I can't show up.
It's no joke, bro. It's no joke. And I mean, obviously it's refreshing to be around a working culture. People that really care, want to be good at their job, want to hold on to this job, want to do it well. I think that's always refreshing to be around, right?
And here's really pretty cool because, there's no one else in this whole country that's doing exactly what we do. It might have been more normal to just be like, I don't want to work at this coffee shop now because there's a dozen other brands doing the same thing that I maybe want to go try. Whereas here, like authentically, these kids are some of the best baristas in the entire country. And I keep saying that, it sounds kind of funny, but it's true. There's nobody else doing what we do here. And the amount of actual pressure, social pressure that you're under to do what we do is unique here. In the States, there's, like I said, dozens of coffee shops pushing people in different ways. And here, this is the only one. And so these kids, they're really proud of what they do. That kid, the kid that wrecks his motorcycle, I actually texted him that day. And I was like, hey, but can you switch shifts with some girl tomorrow? I want you to close instead of her. And
Just to be clear on what this kind of stuff looks like. Anyway, go ahead.
he FaceTimed me later that night and he's like, bro, I don't know if I can work tomorrow. And it was right after the accident happened. So his face was all messed up, his bleeding. He's like, I might need the day off tomorrow. And I was like, bro, you're gonna need a couple of weeks off at least. It's like, geez. So he said, please don't, please hold my spot. I'd love to come back. I love what I do. And it was really interesting that just to see that type of commitment he's 19 and it's just, it's a coffee job. For us, we always think coffee job is a stepping stone, but these kids are very proud of their skills.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, super cool. I think sometimes you take it for granted because you've been around coffee so long, but I think that coffee is really unique in that you can really level yourself up. You can really grow within this thing. It's not based upon your education. It's not based upon anything but how you show up. Right. And if you show up strong, it's a piece of strength, right? If you show up and you're treating your people well and you're making a quality coffee and you're getting it out in a good amount of time, you can really ascend. And I think especially with something like what Coffee de los Mice is doing in Belize, this isn't their only one. You don't make money at coffee with one location. Like that's just not how coffee works, So like they've got agenda to expand. And I think that if you move yourself up, that is one of the cool things about coffee is you make great tips. So you get a decent hourly wage plus great tips. And then as you ascend within the brand, like moving on into assistant managing up into regional managing potentially, potentially if they want to franchise to you, then you've got a business that you've got on your own without having to do a bunch of education, without having to outlay like hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. I think that's a pretty awesome business model, especially for young kids coming up in a country where they're just, when we first started hiring, when we first started putting it out application wise, we had like over 70 applicants who wanted to come and interview, and Drew interviewed like 50 something of them. And we're having to literally beat back the throng of folks that want to interview and are hungry for the work. But, we had somebody pull aside and say, it's because there aren't a ton of jobs down here. So if somebody's hiring, people want to land a job. They want to be good at a job. They want to perform at a job. And how awesome it is for us to be able to embed tools and skills into kids that they can ascend life with and go and do something powerful with. I think that's pretty awesome.
So another interesting thing that's been kind of a learning curve for me is the working conditions here are so much different. So full-time for us is like 35 hours or something. Full-time here, 48 hours. And so people expect to work 6 days. People expect to work 10-hour shifts. And when I hired 9 people for a coffee shop, everyone's like, why do you need so many people? And so when I schedule people the way I would schedule a full-time employee in the States, they're incredibly happy to not be working all the time. Whereas anybody scheduled over 40 hours thinks it's too much. Here, 35 is a blessing and they get 2 days off a week. And it's a very unique work environment because for us, that's what I'm used to. But here, it's just not the same.
Interesting. Wow.
So many blessings, which is why Drew just wants to live there forever. He just wants to disappear forever, man.
I'll stay down here.
I'm curious to see what happens in the future, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. If anybody, tries to pop up as a competitor, you kind of started, like you said, something completely new, completely unique, completely, different to what the country is used to. Like, I wonder how long it'd take before somebody, because if I was, in my 20s right now, I'd be keeping an eye on Coffee de los Mice and saying, hey, maybe I could do something like that. So it's really interesting to think about, what competitors might start popping up to try and like say, hey, they've got something going good. Maybe I can do that too.
Well, when people ask how we're doing, I say we're doing all right, because I think people are still skeptical about the business model in the country, because it's not necessarily what you'd expect to be like your ideal candidate community for coffee. We think what we would definitely expect is not what we're doing here. And so if I was to look at this, from an outside perspective, I would be very skeptical. So let's be the best kept secret until we have at least 5 to 10 locations.
And I will say this, like, we're very used to coffee, like almost being like cookie cutter, right? Like, yeah, put your own spin on it, put your own colors on it, put your own logo on it. But really, how different are the different coffee brands with what they're putting across the counter? You know what I mean? Like in the States, they've calibrated, right? So that they've all got pretty decent beans, right? They've all got a pretty powerful energy drink. They've all got a pretty similar building strategy on how they're putting things together. Like how different is coffee across the board, truly, when it comes to the States, because you have all the same suppliers, right? That's the funniest part of the whole thing. We're all getting it from the same spot, except for maybe your beans and the way you're roasting them, right? Most people are getting their stuff from the same people. That's not the case in Belize. And I think that's, if there's anything that's safeguarding us from coffee de los Mayas being easily replicated in Belize is, I feel like we've had to go through the rungs. Like Drew can testify. Drew's got like 10 years older just in the 2 months he's been down there, for how much he's had to like adapt and figure out and forge and recreate, and where are we getting this and what's the supplier for that and how's this going to work, and oh, it doesn't work here the way it works back in the States. Oh, there's no standards for that here the way that there's back in the States. Oh, there's no supplier like that here in the whole country of Belize. So where are we going to scrounge from? Oh, therefore timelines are jacked because like we're having to get it from other places. So I do think that it does allow the learning curve to be a little bit slower, like as far as people, following us and copycatting. At the same time,
You got to steal like an artist.
that's right. We're gonna roll it as long as we can roll it. It's all about support. Collab team loves supporting people, love supporting new coffee opportunities, and so this has been an exciting one, a very different one, but it's been pretty awesome to be a part of. So Drew, we hope you get some rest. We hope David being there is going to mean that you get to go to bed at decent hours. You don't have to be there at every shift change and every closing shift. Just kick the kid to the curb, have him get there and hold down the shack. And
You got it.
that way you get some sleep. All righty, guys. Good seeing everybody. Thanks for another Coffee Experts Club. Ben Flatterbuck, always awesome to see you, buddy.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.